Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name's Verity Firth. I'm the Vice President of Societal Impact Equity Engagement here at UNSW, and I want to thank our guests for being with us here today. I will introduce you properly in a minute. Before we begin today's conversation, I want to acknowledge that we're on the land of the Bidjigal and to pay respect to elders past and present, particularly as traditional custodians of the unceded land upon which we're meeting today. This is a panel really to examine the Poverty and Inequality Partnership that we have with ACOSS as UNSW. It's a 10-year collaboration between the Australian Council of Social Service and UNSW, and it's backed by NGO partners to co-create policy-relevant research to sharpen the national focus on poverty and inequality, but most importantly, to drive policy change. The partnership embodies UNSW's commitment under our Progress for All strategy and our societal impact framework, and deeply reflects the ambitions of my favourite SDG, SDG 17, which of course is about partnerships for good. The latest Poverty in Australia report was recently released through this partnership, providing rigorous analysis on the current state of poverty and inequality across Australia and the impact of policy levers. It found that there are 3.7 million people, which is 14.2% of the Australian population, living below the poverty line of 50% of median income, including 757,000 children. And we're going to delve a bit more into the insights of this today, but that's a pretty bleak statistic in the context of the wealth that this country has. It's a really difficult, but it's a really important read, and it highlights the impact that we can have when we work in partnership. And it's a read that we really want to make sure that those with decision-making power know about, are listening to, and that we're advocating for as well, which we'll also talk about later in our conversation. So I'm going to now introduce you to our fantastic panel. The plan is to speak for about 40 minutes, and then we're going to also open it up to the floor if people want to ask questions. So first, Cassandra Goldie. I'm sure she needs no introduction, but she is the CEO of ACOSS, and the ACOSS from ACOSS. No, Cass from ACOSS.
You got it.
CEO, but more importantly, she's an adjunct professor here at UNSW. She's an expert in public policy and civil society and economic, social and environmental rights. She's a leading voice advocating for the disadvantaged across national and international processes and local communities. And prior to joining ACOSS, Cassandra held senior roles in both the not-for-profit and public sectors, including with the Australian Human Rights Commission and Legal Aid. Welcome, Cassandra. At the end here, we have Yuvishti Naidu. Yuvishti is a Senior Research Fellow at UNSW's Social Policy Research Centre with expertise in the measurement and understanding of living standards, with a focus on poverty, inequality, deprivation, social exclusion and well-being. Her work combines robust analysis of complex survey datasets and qualitative research methods to applied social policy, with direct policy relevance to improve the lives of disadvantaged people. And last but not least, Tig McMahon. Tig is the Head of Research and Policy at Settlement Services International, a non-government organisation delivering a range of programs and initiatives for migrants and refugees across Australia. He has a background in public health and worked for many years in the areas of HIV and viral hepatitis, with a focus on migrants and refugees. Welcome, Tig. So and to Yuvishti too. So, we're going to start with a bit of a broad conversation to frame our understanding about the state of poverty in Australia. I'm going to come to you first, Cass. What are your key findings around poverty in Australia?
Thank you, Verity, and for the warm welcome. Great to see so many of you here, and also to acknowledge country, First Nations elders past and present. And I just want to really thank and congratulate the University of New South Wales for having this strong focus on the SDG framework. It really matters, actually. It is, I mean, in the sort of what's really going on in the world and our test of what's needed, enormous work and expertise was done by global leaders to ground the SDGs, and we still at ACOSS, as the peak body for the community sector and for people facing poverty and disadvantage, we actually use the SDG framework to hold ourselves to account. That's actually what we're working on. So that sits behind the glossy strategy, is the grounding in the SDG. So we can both hold ourselves to account nationally and also comparatively to other countries. And the very basic findings of this collaboration, and I'll talk later, Verity, I think a little bit about the background to this, is working with fantastic colleagues, and two here, and also Bruce Bradbury, who's in the audience here, and also Carla Trelaw at the back there. Deeply committed academics, community sector organisations, people with a very direct experience of either being affected by poverty and deprivation and or working alongside and in support of. We felt it was very important that we track the hard facts in Australia. We're a very wealthy country. In fact, we're the second wealthiest country in the world. I'll just pause on that. That is who we are. We tic-tac between Switzerland and Belgium and ourselves. And that's done by the Credit Suisse collaboration, the Global Wealth Report, and that's who we are. And yet we have a very persistent picture of sustained levels of poverty and deprivation in Australia. The latest report, as you say, Verity, we did together, found that it's 1 in 7 people, so 14.2%. Of the population living below the OECD accepted measure of poverty, and we can come to that a bit later on if you like. And that includes the 1 in 6 children. And so this latest report tells us that overall as a population, we are getting worse, not better. So the last time we did this full population assessment, it was 1 in 8 people living in poverty, including 1 in 6 children, and now we are increasing the level of poverty in Australia. So we are in fundamental breach of our global obligations under the SDGs, but of course, more importantly, it means that as each week goes by, despite the rhetoric of our current government, which says that nobody should